Hey guys, it is me, Kay, and I am here to help you learn how to communicate like a boss. So, communication is key in every single partnership, and to figuring out how to express the way that you're feeling or even what you're thinking can be so scary at times. It just requires such this level of vulnerability that I don't think that we were actually taught how to do growing up, especially in my generation. I think that sometimes that pattern is continuing in future generations and the generations that we're seeing now. And I think that there's a lot of conflict in this idea that expressing your feelings, even if there's something that is kind of difficult to talk about or your feelings may not be the best, that we conflict that with confrontation. And the first thing to note in any form of communication, whether it's with your partner, with a friend, or even at work, is that having a difficult conversation does not mean confrontation. So, with that being said, I am going to give you 8 tips that are guaranteed to help you communicate like a boss. So, number one is understanding your feelings. Before you can have a conversation, you first have to understand how you're feeling, what's going on inside, what's happening in that moment. So, before initiating a conversation, just take a second and write down your emotions. Literally, just write down the feelings that you're feeling right now in that moment. Number two, address your insecurities. So now that you have a list of the feelings that you're feeling, evaluate what you wrote down. Are those feelings being triggered by some insecurities that you have within yourself, some thought patterns that you're kind of struggling to break? But it really does take a lot of self awareness in this state to understand that a lot of times we're triggered. We're triggered by things that happened to us previously, and someone says something, and now we're like, going crazy or we're ready to go crazy because it's triggering an unresolved situation that has happened or even some unresolved feelings that have happened with someone completely different than the person you actually want to communicate with. And that's not always, but a lot of times it can be, especially when we're learning how to communicate. So look at the emotions that you wrote down and note if there's any insecurities in there. Number three, examine the evidence. So now that we looked at our feelings, we wrote them down, we're kind of seeing if there's any insecurities attached to them, which are the thoughts that may be attached to those feelings. Now it's examining the evidence of those thoughts. Is the thought that I wrote down a fact or an assumption? Sometimes we really feel something so strongly that it feels so true. And just because something feels true does not mean that it's actually true. One thing that I love to tell my clients in therapy is to imagine that you're putting your thoughts up on trial. When you are in a courtroom, it's all based on facts. You can't say, I feel like someone's guilty. Like, I just feel it. It's so strong. They're so guilty. It's just a feeling. Everyone look at you like, okay, well, where's the evidence? And that is exactly what you have to do with your brain, because sometimes it just goes on all of these emotions, and then we create these false realities from those emotions. So now that you've kind of evaluated that, look and see if there's anything that is a fact. Okay, go with that. Or there's anything that's an assumption. That's something that we need to challenge. Again, this is all before we even initiating a conversation. Let's go on to the next one. Number four, we're going to set the stage. Now we're ready to actually begin the process of initiating a true conversation with your partner or whoever it is that you're talking to. In this stage, you want to identify what it is you want to convey to your partner. For example, you have your thoughts and your feelings, you want to utilize those. And a good example of a good way to get started is, I feel insecure about this relationship because. And that way you're bringing in I statements saying how you feel and then why you feel that way. We've set the stage, we identified the thoughts, we identified the emotions that we're feeling, and what it is we want to convey to our partner. Now here comes the needs part. What do you need? Every conversation, there has to be how can we resolve this? Or if it's just so that we can talk and resolve this together, then that's again a need that you're looking for. So in this particular stage, you want to make sure that you're saying, okay, I feel insecure about this relationship because you chose to hang out with your friends instead of honoring our traditional date night. That's pretty valid to feel that way. And now that you feel that way and you have conveyed that, you talk about what you need. Moving forward, I would really love if we continue to prioritize date night. See how simple that was? Okay, we've done all this prep work. We're at number 6. now it's time to communicate like a boss. You got your script, you've done your self-checkup, you know what it is that your needs are, your feelings, your thoughts, and now it's time to sit your partner down and say, baby, we need to talk. Oh, it's game time now. Now you're sitting down and having this conversation. You should feel very prepared because you've kind of already gone through this conversation in your mind, at least what it is that you need to communicate to your partner. But number 7 is a very, very, very tricky part here. It's the listening. Now that you have conveyed what you need, your thoughts, your feelings, listen to your partner. Listen to what they say. Listen to the nonverbals to be able to make sure you're directing the conversation. If you notice that your partner's getting a little antsy or a little want to pop off a little bit, that's when you want to kind of come in there and say, yeah, it looks like you're getting upset. Let's revisit this, or kind of that's when you want to put your buffers in there to see what it is you need to do. Evaluate yourself as well. If you're beginning to, feed off of their emotions and now you're completely lost and don't know what it is you want to say anymore, it may be time to take a little pause in that. That's okay. Sometimes conversations last over several days. Sometimes they take a couple minutes. Sometimes they take an hour. It's okay. Just as long as you're communicating how you feel. And now we're at number 8. We're at the validation and the celebration part of this whole thing. You should feel amazing. You literally just probably communicated the best you've ever communicated in your life. And good for you, girl. This is where you want to make sure that you validate and you express gratitude. Thank your partner for listening to you. Validate how you felt. Validate how they felt. And now reiterate the action plan. What are we going to do moving forward? Then pour yourself a glass of champagne and cheers because you just communicated like a freaking boss. Well, sis, it appears as if my work here is done. You now know how to communicate like a boss. And if you forget any of these tips, rewatch this video. But you can also visit my website, and I have it written down for you in the blog because I want to make sure that you are communicating like the boss that I know that you are. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.